Hey people, Mark here, and before I start, I just want to say that the Dreadnought video is coming. I just underestimated the amount of lore it has, so it's going to be a little bit of a wait before it comes out. I went to play through the game again just to gather what I could, and I've already had to rewrite some of the video. It is coming nonetheless, but today, I'm jumping on a bandwagon and talking about the idea of bringing Johnson back to life. Taking off my lore master's cap, as I do believe they could do this, I'm going to be a bit more of a contrarian than usual and put on my college-level screenwriting education hat. For the love of God, please don't do this. Subscribe here, follow on Twitch and shit. Yes, Halo has made mistakes. Yes, some things that happened in Halo 3 and earlier have been walked back. But there are multiple reasons why, from a narrative standpoint, this would probably be one of the worst decisions 343 could possibly make. Some of this is a direct response to Installation 00 and Hidden Xperia, and I just want to make it clear that I absolutely love those channels, and they are a direct inspiration for this one. These are responses to the things they say in their videos, not attacks on them. But I know you guys are smart enough to discern the difference, right? Okay? Okay. I have in the past expressed that I would love, absolutely love, a Contact Harvest or some other Spartan 1 versus Insurrectionist game. I said 343 should explore these areas in the last GCMU, and I stand by that, but I think bringing Johnson back to life would be a few hundred steps too far for multiple reasons. 1. No deaths in the original trilogy matter other than Johnson's. Now, I'm specifically referring to in-game deaths in terms of emotional weight. Johnson was with us the longest. Johnson was the only one that made us laugh, probably the only death that made us cry. In the lore, Johnson knew Chief the longest after Keyes, but it's not like Chief ever considered Keyes a friend, more so a respectable commander and a good soldier. I know he was a captain in the Navy, so technically a sailor, not a soldier, but Chief has called multiple Marines soldiers in the past. Johnson calls the ODSTs Marines, and the whole thing is willy-nilly. I don't think the UNSC really cares about that stuff. Keyes' death is helped in impact by the best terminal from Combat Evolved Anniversary, but that one didn't come until 2011. Anyway, Johnson is one of Chief's few actual friends, and the only one that isn't a Spartan 2, Cortana, or Fernando. The death of Miranda Keyes doesn't affect us emotionally. I defy you to find me someone who cried when Miranda died. You won't find him. She is the epitome of the poorly written action hero archetype.
Ma'am, squad leaders are requesting a rally point. Where should they go?
To war.
Miranda completes objectives and does soldiery things, but we never see her command troops or be vulnerable or win a fight or do really anything other than stop a button from being fired or accept the Medal of Honor for her dad. Halo Reach gets deaths right, but before this, outside of the books, there were no meaningful deaths other than Johnson's. Does a story need deaths to be compelling? No, not at all. Look at Everything Everywhere All at Once. But if you have deaths in your story, if you play sad music over a death scene, if they're sent out with last words that you call back to in your latest installment,
don't ever let her go. Don't ever let her go.
You need to preserve the impact of the death that you were shooting so hard for. This is not a hard and fast rule. There are none of those in writing, but generally speaking, if you have a really impactful death and then undo it, it means nothing anymore. A death like Guilty Spark can be undone, because while we do kill him ourselves, and it seems kind of definitive, from a narrative standpoint, it's not really that definitive. We don't see his shell of a carapace. It doesn't happen in any dramatic way. We just kind of shoot him with a laser and he blows up. Something like Truth, though, if you were to bring Truth back to life, that would be bad, because he was killed in a very dramatic way. He was killed in a cutscene. He was killed by the Arbiter, not us, and the music swells. It's a very intense moment. Number 2, you have so much shit to do right now. What are the endless? We have theories. They could be and probably are precursors, but those are fan theories not yet proven. Casuals wouldn't know that stuff or even what a precursor is. You've got to explain all that in-game. What's going on with Din? That stuff's just started popping off. Where is Locke? I know people don't love him, but it's poor writing to just leave the story empty. I mean, I assume he'll appear in Outcasts, but it's another thing on the docket to touch on. Where is the Didact, Atriox, Lasky, Palmer, the Spirit of Fire, the Arbiter, Blue Team, us? Where is our Spartan? Can we do a narrative event where our Spartan does anything? But beyond that, where's something new and good? I've just started my 3rd playthrough of Halo Infinite, and as much as I love the gameplay, as much as I will love Firefight, which has been leaked for Season 4, I don't think bringing Johnson back would fulfill any detriments that Halo currently has. We're still fighting the Banished that look just like the Covenant on a green, grassy, pine forest Halo installation with silver Forerunner structures all around us as Master Chief. It's like we've seen it a billion times over the course of 21 years. 3. You can replace Johnson, as you should have 11 years ago. The reason people are still clamoring for Johnson to come back into the fold is that he has no suitable replacement. There is no character that carries the same emotional weight as him, and that's not to say there needs to be another funnyman. Johnson was never all that funny to begin with. He just had this kind of warm presence around him. He told jokes, he was goofy sometimes, but he was more or less the quip that Chief wouldn't make, or couldn't make. Combat Evolved was more goofy because Halo was still finding its footing, but Johnson was the only consistent source of levity that 2 and 3 had. Now the only cast of the Halo Infinite campaign is the Chief, the Weapon, and Fernando. I love this trio, but that is, as I think I said in some video before this one, not a full cast make. For this story to continue, I think we need more characters. Lasky, Palmer, as much as I know she makes a lot of you mad. Buck, he's the only character on Osiris people fully responded well to. New characters too. Give us a team of named Spartans and Marines that accompany Chief on his missions. They don't need a whole team mechanic like in 5. Noble team worked just fine without all that in Reach. Inter-character conflicts, like maybe Chief and Lasky are both well-intentioned but have a disagreement on the methods they take. Or maybe have the characters work in combat like Noble team did, but if they die, kill them in an actual cutscene like Johnson. Bring Blue team back. Bring in other Spartans. Bring in Din. He's cool. He looks cool. Get crazy with it. Bring in some friendly aliens. Give us banished defectors. You know how much people like the Arbiter and Shipmaster? The first thing I thought when I heard open world Halo was all the crazy turns you could take, and you didn't take any of them. Imagine a vendor in game, if you would. This was an idea I had at the onset of Halo Infinite's hype up. Imagine this vendor. They sell multiplayer power-ups and ammunition and new banished weapons like the spike rifle from Halo Wars 2 or banished plasma rifles or repeaters, anything you can't get from the FOBs. Focus rifles, fuel rod. Does Halo Infinite have fuel rod cannons? Fuel rod cannons. That shotgun thing from the leaks that I can't show you, otherwise I'll get a copyright strike. And who is this vendor, you ask? Buckle up for this. This is a great idea. It's 2 characters, a Tavoan female and a Yonhet male. The Tavoan is all grouchy and angry, and the Yonhet sounds like Hondo from Clone Wars.
I smell profit. Nice, juicy, fat, warm profits.
And they bicker all the time. And just like that, I have created a character dynamic 10 times more interesting than any of the Harbinger's moments. Where are some new species? Where are the Sharkoi? Where are the Dazreem? The Precursor, the Endless are fine enemies and all, but we've only seen this plank of wood Harbinger and these little Gasgira things that have no personalities. And by the way, what are they? My point is, 343, do not be afraid to do crazy shit or push the envelope of what Halo can be. I know why you're hesitant, I do. I know the community has been mean to you about it, but please, don't go so far backward that you literally resurrect Bungie's characters from the dead. That would be the strongest admission that you cannot do anything for yourselves that I could possibly imagine, and it would make me sad. On the idea of Johnson replacing Palmer in this Halo 4 cutscene, change in art style and tone of Halo 4 aside, I actually liked Halo 4 more than most people, this would have made Halo 4 so much worse for many reasons. For one, a game that by every measure except pure graphical fidelity is not as good as Halo 3, to undo the only emotional moment in the entire original trilogy would be catastrophic. It would feel extremely cheap, like they couldn't come up with a character to replace Johnson. Now in reality they couldn't and didn't, but at least they didn't just throw their hands in the air and say, fuck it, he's alive. There's also something to be said about a lull. For example, the main bad guy of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 1 is Dio Brando. Bear with me for a second. Spoilers for JoJo Part 1 through 3, by the way. Dio dies at the end of JoJo Part 1. It's an emotional scene that is done really well and feels very final because of the reverence given to the characters we have come to know so far. The colors and composition give the feeling of a dramatic final climax. This is it. The bridges are burning, etc. Part 2 has a different set of villains. They build the world, they expand on the origins of the mask that gave Dio his power. They give us Joseph Joestar, one of the more charismatic characters, some of the most memorable, memeable, emotional scenes, but no Dio. Cut to Part 3. Dio is back, and stronger, more intimidating, better animated, and sexier than ever. The show ups the sound design, the character arcs, the craziness of the adventures, but all of this is a backdrop to the sheer gravitas that Dio carries with him. Gravitas that would have been much lessened if you did not have a Part 2 in between. The return of a grave threat we've seen before is a powerful tool to use in a narrative, but if you do it too soon, it will just feel like the last fight didn't matter at all. This applies for Heroes too. If you kill Johnson and then bring him back immediately, That doesn't just take away from the death scene, it makes you think about that scene for the duration of his current screen time, unless you knock it out of the park from that point on, which they definitely didn't. Coupling this with what I've said with regards to bringing in new characters, a lot of the want for Johnson to come back smells to me of either a lack of creativity or a lack of trust in 343 to carry out new ideas, which, trust me, I get. But I don't think they should sink this deep into the despair of their own failures, so all in all, my suggestion is this. Do not bring Johnson back. Bring in more characters to make the story more character-driven. No more of this skirting the line between action, game, and story-driven. No. Keep the action as is. Infinite has the best gameplay of any Halo. Make the settings more varying. Make the characters more varying. Do not be afraid to add wacky shit like my vendor idea. Anyway, that's all I got. Bye-bye. Follow me on Twitch. Sub to my other channel. Please, please, please. I'd love it if you did that. Please. It'd make me very happy. It'd make me horny.